Uh-huh. Me and the podium. Here we go. Here we go. Hey, everyone.
Hey.
I'm Nikki. This is Max. And we're going to get started with some mindful breathing, a little drop in, and then we'll take it from there. So find a nice long spine. You can keep your warm chai in your hands if you want. Probably smells good. And relax your belly. Find an intentional softening of the heart space. One of my favorite philosophy teachers once said to me that, bless you, might have said bless you, but that's not what they said. What they said to me is that listening to a philosophy lecture or listening to a Dharma talk is not a listening of the ears or a listening of the mind. It's an act of listening from the heart. And there's some part of our heart that's always listening, tuning into and attuning to truth. And so even if any of the concepts we discuss in the next 2 hours feel like way over your head, your analytical mind, your critical mind is like having a hard time chewing on it, keep dropping down into the heart and softening. And just get curious about what's moving through that space. Take a deep inhale through the nose. And an open mouth exhale. I'm going to sing a little prayer, and if you know the words, feel free to join. Om Asatoma Sadgamaya Tamasoma Jyotirgamaya Mrityorma Amritam Gamaya. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Oh, Divine, bring me from darkness to light, from ignorance to truth, from the concept of finite mortality to infinite immortality. Okay, you can blink your eyes open. All right, so Max and I are excited about this. I think we've been doing this dance of the form and the formless, the structure and the non-structured. And so I have never lectured with someone else before. This is my first time. I usually lecture solo. So I started with a little bit of structure. I'm going to go from there. And then I think Max and I will bounce back and forth. Y'all will join in with some questions. And it'll kind of just be a communal download, really. We'll see what flows out of us. So is there anything you want to say before I get started?
Thank you for co-creating that. And it's all on record. And the intention is to publish it on YouTube. And so if you want to say something, just say that in such a way that it is publishable on YouTube. I can cut it out later, though. But
are we allowed to swear? Is swearing okay?
Yeah, it allows. Just some topics are more sensitive than swearing there.
Okay. Yeah.
But otherwise, we are here to serve and to play and to laugh, and making jokes is welcome. And please continue. Do you want me to? How about raise your hands who listen to over, say, 100 hours of Ramdas? Over 20.
Do you know who Ram Dass is? Is there anyone here who doesn't know who Ram Dass is? Okay.
How about at least 5 hours of Ram Dass? Yeah, watch the movies. Listen on YouTube.
Oh, yeah. Oh.
Yep.
The mic.
Yeah, so there is that printout on the back. There are dates in the first column of his life, and the second column, how many years he did and was on that stage. And essentially, it was very educating to make this table, and I did it with the help of ChatGPT. So it's a bit unreliable, but I would say 99% reliable. I trust it. So it looks like he spoke for 30 years, non-stop, after meeting Nim Karoli Baba. And Nim Karoli Baba is on the left. And Ram Dass is on the right here, on this picture. And for 30 years, and I think he spoke maybe several times a week. And many of these talks are recorded. So what happened to me, last year I'm preparing that conversation. And for first half a year, it was pretty much every day. I was like thinking about that, preparing it. So I already had my download huge, and I got the benefit of that. And then I did one talk previously, and thanks for those who were here. And I already kind of went through all that. But what I want to say is that it looks like Ram Dass that has that special power, superpower, which is he speaks to everyone differently. So there are thousands of hours of Ram Dass on YouTube. If you click on random Ram Dass video, he will speak to you what you need to know. And that is so many times. It's just like, I have a question, start with Ram Dass, and he speaks exactly on that. Exactly on that topic. And I kind of scroll to the middle, and right there he would speak randomly. He would speak exactly what I need to hear. So use that magic. I am attracted to this place, this room, because apparently the connection to Ram Dass here is not only strong, it's conscious, it's perceived, it's intended. And Ram Dass by himself is not the ultimate answer. It's a great prophet, super being, which channeled Nim Karoli Baba, which is on the left. And Nim Karoli Baba channels or impersonalize or reincarnates Hanuman. And Hanuman, like recently I discovered, is...
That's Hanuman right there. That's the statue of
The
Hanuman.
gold one? The golden?
Yeah, that golden one is a statue of meditating Hanuman.
So and Hanuman is incarnation of Shiva. And there are three gods in the cycle. The beginning is Brahma, who creates. Vishnu is
the
sustainer, keeps it, repairs, keeps it going. And Shiva is destroyer. So in all my search of science, in scientific research, I was staying away from evil, and destroying for me was evil, obvious evil, right? And now I kind of, after listening to Ram Dass for half a year, I just became very interested in the topic of evil. And here is Shiva, the destroyer, and my favorite Ram Dass, is essentially in the lineage of Shiva. So that's like a super paradox for me, which I'm working on. All right. So thinking about evil, there are lots of varieties of evil. Evil is like super diverse. You can find it anywhere, especially in the church, especially on YouTube, especially in dance, in music, everywhere. One of the main manifestations of evil is destruction. And destruction, if you think about it from scientific point of view, it is a function of time. If you watch the video, there is something destroyed, you flip it backward, and it's created. So birth, if you look at the birth from going from future to the past, it's equal to death. Birth is coming in as physical, death is living physical. If you look backward, death is the birth, and birth is the death. So, I don't know, it's hard to wrap your mind around that, but it's possible.
Straight into the illusion of time. First 10 minutes.
Possible.
Let's get to it.
Basically, just I'm talking on very high level, and stay with me. And if you want more explanations or terms, speak up, because like there are a few super advanced here participants, and there are a few there that are advanced another way, but not in that way. So don't be afraid. So in any way, what I'm saying is Shiva is a mirror of Brahma as a function of time. Brahma is the creator only because of time cycle, a cycle of the life. If you turn it this way, then Brahma is creator and Shiva is destroyer. Or another way, it just they flip. Brahma becomes Shiva, Shiva becomes Brahma. And I'm obviously a Brahman from some of the lineage, from reincarnations. I'm very excited about creating, and I'm don't like destroying, but somehow my scientific research brought me to that tradition, and that's now mine. And so resolving this paradox is through Hanuman, reincarnation of Shiva, because higher level of Shiva is a servant of God, servant of Ram, servant of all that is, servant of that creator of the world. And the destroyer Shiva, which is servant of higher purpose, is super cool. And while Brahman looks up, Shiva looks down on people with compassion. That's a paradox which you discover through Hanuman. Compassion and service. So service is super cool for me. And I came to that idea of service through a lot of steps. And that there is like that favorite story about yogis, that a scientist was climbing a mountain of knowledge, and when he came to the very top, he found a yogi sitting there. So basically, that's my trip. I do the science, and science brought me to Hanuman, which was already there, like service, doing yoga, being three favorite principles which Nim Karoli Baba gave to Ramdas is love everyone, tell the truth, serve everyone.
Can I step in, Max?
Cool. Yep.
Can I step in?
No, I'm done.
Oh, you're done. I actually loved, like, literally everything you just started with was the end of my lecture. So I was like, oh, okay, so we are going to do the beginning to end thing, just how you said with Shiva and Brahman. We're going to switch sides there.
I don't have a plan now.
But I want to hop in on your Hanuman bit, because you mentioned that Hanuman is considered a deity or a murti of service. And Hanuman is, again, the monkey man there. And what I was thinking of starting with, which is really cool because all of it does loop together in this like cyclical experience, which is Ram Dass, I personally believe, does this beautiful job at like teaching the art of living and how to live life in a mindful way. And he does it in a super relatable way that harnesses ancient teachings. He teaches like Advaita Vedanta through his like colloquial terms and a lot of higher level philosophy. And that's my background, is I know a lot of different yoga philosophy and also philosophy rooted in Hinduism. And from the Bhagavad Gita, has anyone read the Bhagavad Gita? Raise your hand. Ram Dass taught a very, 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 very important course at Naropa on the Bhagavad Gita. And the Bhagavad Gita basically offers all of these different ways of living or forms of yoga or paths to God, as Ram Dass calls it. And first off, let me just start by saying the first chapter of the Bhagavad Gita is called The Yoga of Arjuna's Sorrow. And in talking about concepts of evil, like, it's amazing to me that this text, which is the heart of the Mahabharata, one of the most important yogic texts, starts with a chapter about Arjuna's sorrow. And if it wasn't for Arjuna's sorrow or dissonance or some sort of him like a judgment of evil, the action he was about to take, he felt it to be as evil, there wouldn't have been this whole conversation with Krishna, which led to awakening and understanding of like what his Dharma was, why he's here, right? And so in the Bhagavad Gita, it's broken down into these different forms of yoga. And some people say there's more than 3, but a lot of people interpret it as 3 types. One of them being karma yoga, the other one being bhakti yoga, and the third one being jnana yoga. But the first type of yoga that's talked about is karma yoga, which is very much so known as the yoga of service. Hanuman being the murti or deity of service. And when I first learned about karma yoga, I thought it was 100% like you have to become Mother Teresa, you have to go out to the streets and feed people, and everything was an act of selfless service. But then as I went deeper into the studies of the Bhagavad Gita, I began to understand that karma yoga was much more pertinent to moment life, day-to-day life than that. It wasn't like leave your job and just be of service. It's like every single action you take is an opportunity for awakening. And a very important aspect of karma yoga is a detachment from result. So when you take action, you're not saying like, I'm taking action to succeed. You're saying, I'm taking action just to take action. And that's it. And I leave the result up to God. And I know sometimes the G word is scary for people, but it's very commonly used in yoga philosophy. So you can always replace it in your mind with the universe or collective consciousness or higher harmony. But the idea is you take action, you leave the result up to God. And a concept that I really love and I remind myself of constantly, do y'all know what prasadam is? So prasadam is at the end of like a ceremony or event, a lot of times there's a blessed food that is served. And it's usually delicious. Like Jai Bhakti makes like the best like chocolate date dishes. Oh my gosh. And the idea behind karma yoga is that you take action and any result that happens, any effect that happens is prasadam. All of it. You get into a car accident, prasadam. Right? You win the lotto, prasadam. And now this gets really tricky because there are some topics along the world you're like, how could that be prasadam? Especially in today's day and age. You're like, wait, what? We're skipping a step. This is spiritual bypassing. And trust me, we should get back into all that. But I want to keep going with this, which is that karma yoga is supposed to be, according to a lot of different people, the layman's yoga or the laywoman's yoga. So those of us who are still engaged in everyday life, relationships, jobs, karma yoga is the one that helps us to reach self-realization. It's not necessarily through, different people interpret the Bhagavad Gita differently. So like some folks who are part of the Hare Krishna might say bhakti yoga all the way. It's the heart of the Bhagavad Gita, it's the heart of the Mahabharata. But how I learned it is that karma yoga suits everyone and can oftentimes lead to an understanding of self-knowledge or self-realization and true devotion. What's going on? Oh.
I was checking my recording.
Okay, you got it. Yeah, go ahead, ask.
Can I ask, when you say everything's prasadam, like a car accident or a lottery, is the analogy you're using like that in itself is divine? Is that the connection in the sense of like, because it's God's work, whatever happens is exactly what was meant to happen?
Yeah, basically, and that's ultimately like a part of the experience of, the whole part of the practice of Ishvara Pranidhana, which is the most important niyama in yoga. A niyama is a moral discipline for the self. And Ishvara Pranidhana means surrender to God. So to surrender to God or to surrender to life as a form of God is key to karma yoga and helps you to relate to the other ones, bhakti yoga and jnana yoga. And actually in the Ramayana, and Ram Das has quoted this before in one of his lectures, Ram says, you must honor Shiva before you come to me. And Ram is an incarnation of Vishnu, right? I believe Ram's an incarnation of Vishnu, the sustainer. And so when he says to one of his disciples, you must honor Shiva before you come to me, he's saying, you must honor destruction. You must honor death. You must honor evil. You must look at your shadow. Look at the collective shadows before you come to this place of equanimity. Before you come to this place of like, okay, I surrender to it all. So I did want to touch upon that because Max said he wanted to talk about good versus evil today of like, yeah, we have to look at the evil in the collective. We have to look at the evil within ourselves. And I think what I've experienced in the last 11 years of being in the yoga scene, there's definitely a lot of love and light happening, which Max mentioned was his like affinity in the beginning of his career. But ultimately, I think if that's the only place you invest your energy, I believe that the divine will pull you in the direction and be like, but look at this. But what about this? What about this version of you, this reflection of you? And I think once you start to look at those parts of yourself and love those parts of yourself, then there's a true understanding of bhakti yoga that begins to arise. which is the devotional yoga. So we were just all talking about karma yoga, the yoga of service. But then you're like, oh, I'm loving all these darker parts of myself too. Like bhakti is devotional. Bhakti is unconditional love. So if you can love all versions of yourself, all versions of other, that is loving all versions of the divine. And how Ram Dass would talk about it is like that he would see Neem Karoli Baba in everything and everyone. So some of the lessons Neem Karoli Baba gave him was like, okay, tell the truth. Tell the truth was a big one. And so he would say, his guru would send him people to try to get him to tell the truth. You know, he would I think they were at some special event and there was an official there, like a prime minister. And he asked Ram Dass, Neem Karoli Baba was like talking Ram Dass up. He's like such a holy man. He's amazing. So the prime minister was like, oh, interesting, like all into Ram Dass's status. He was like, oh, you should come see the high courts. And Ram Dass like knew in his being, he did not want to go to the high courts. He wanted to stay with Neem Karoli Baba, right? But he also understood that his Guruji was giving him the opportunity to speak the truth and be like, actually, I'm not interested in that. But he couldn't do it. And he said it was like, he was like, yeah, of course, I'd love to. He's like, all right, cool, tomorrow at noon. And he said, and that whole time, he's like, seeing Neem Karoli Baba, seeing the prime minister, witnessing his inner process. He's like, I'm not telling truth. Dang, he got me again. He brought the prime minister in for him to show me. Right? And so I think that is also bhakti yoga. Yes, singing, chanting, kirtan, like praying to God, all that is bhakti yoga, but like seeing the guru in everyone you meet, everyone on the street, every circumstance, and saying, can I love this? Can I tell the truth? Like that to me is the implementation of bhakti yoga. And I do think it starts with karma.
Yes.
Yeah?
Yep. Well said, well said. I would invite a question. We wouldn't probably answer all the questions, but just to kind of spice it up, if you have like personal question which would like really help you, come up with a question. Let's discuss some karma, dharma. Yeah, yeah.
So when you're talking about the action, not just any action, right? Because it's karmatic, so you're waiting for the right action to arise. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. So I think the more you drop into your presence practice, the more right action, or it's called pramana, which means right knowledge. The more right knowledge will arise in you. But the thing is, we all have, from my understanding, we all have a certain amount of karma to burn off. So there are actually some actions that you'll find yourself taking from a reactive place because it's karma that you need to burn off. Like you're like, and I'm already yelling at this person. It's already coming out of my mouth. And then after that, the karma yoga is detaching from that having moved through you. Not shaming yourself, not guilting yourself, really taking a step back and be like, okay, that was karma that moved through me, and I move forward with right knowledge. I turn towards right knowledge and like redirecting yourself, re-shepherding yourself, because I think to suppress your vasanas, which are like karmic imprints, I think ends up creating more dissonance in you. It's like, if you haven't burned those off and they're like in you and you're just pretending you're something else, like I'm cool, I'm chill inside, you're like there's more karma building anyways. Right?
I guess I have one more question.
No, ask.
Because this is like, how do we feel like about the concept of like fate? Like,
oh, this is a
Max
question. Like, how do we feel?
This is a Max question.
Is it just because we're doing something and then the next thing that develops is not because you were part of a plan, or just because what you did seemed to, I don't know, oscillate these molecules hanging around Mercury or something? No, I don't know.
You take that.
Yeah, that's favorite. Thank you. Yeah, I'm thinking about that pretty much all the time. And it looks like several times I was about to die, and I negotiated with someone above, saying, give me a chance, I will justify the extension of life. And usually I see, like in my grandfather's life story, when he was my age, he was about to die, and grandmother just gave her life instead. She just died, and he recovered and lived another 30-something years. So I see how, say, my dogs sacrificed themselves for my recovery. Like, I get better when they die. And that just happens. And so there is a lot of play here. And Neem Karoli Baba, we know he healed people. And some of the people, like, they died and he recovered them. And in India, that is easier because people at that time were not yet in the modern world. They were like still previous century, and they believed in miracles. And when everybody believes in miracles, it's so much easier to do miracles. I'll deviate, but I hopefully will come back to faith. But it's just on my mind. Like recently, I go down into the material world to like the core of mainstream.
Mycelial as in mushrooms, right?
No, that too. But I meant mainstream, not mycelium. Mainstream. Mainstream, like science, academia, very conservative, very tough. Hey guys, if you're like watching me, I'm about you. Yeah. And what I do is, usually it's one-on-one, but in a small group, I can shift the reality so they all become connected. And they start talking about consciousness, and they just expand. So they are closed, but they are, you cannot do science without being connected to something. They're just kind of rigid in one way, but open in another way. So in my presence, if I just found that in my physiology, I can shift the mood somehow, even without talking. Like just, I don't do anything, I just, and the whole room like, and becomes crazy, like they smoked something. So coming back to faith, on one hand, it looks like it's pretty well regimented. So there is a series of lessons, and I can see how they feed me the same lesson over and over until I learn it. And for me, it's violence. I am trained for 32 years in Russia, in Moscow. So violence, we absorb it from everywhere. Violence and hierarchy and domination was everywhere. You can't survive in Moscow without being tough. And at the same time, like bend to the power. So you can be tough to the people below you and other on your level, but you still have to work very hard to satisfy your superiors. And then here, it's much more liberal, much more sweet and democratic, I would say. It's egalitarian, much more egalitarian. It's meaning everybody behaves like they're equal, although they're not exactly equal. So for me, that is the lesson which like violence and not harming others, not being angry at others, not being righteous at others, which is very easy to be, like, especially as you know so much and you know all these spiritual things, and you see how low they fly, or they don't even fly, they crawl. So that's the lesson. And so the lessons are given to us, and especially in the sleep, I get this dream, like a test in my dream, where I'm being pressed to start fighting. And usually there is no escape from physical violence. And sometimes I remember I'm being tested, I shouldn't do that. But sometimes I jump into violence. So essentially, we are being forced to make choices. Free will, right? Free will, like one of the, like, it's not frequently mentioned laws of this creation, but one is we are forced to exercise our free will. And second law is, especially in this Western world, we are not allowed to reveal miracles a lot. We can do miracles as long as they're not public. Like one-on-one is good, but like these miracles, everybody is under illusion that the world is material, and you cannot break this illusion. Like breaking this illusion is only permitted that much. Like in this room, that happens. In this room, like there is like, when you come here, miracles are allowed, but then you exit, and then miracles are not allowed as much. So faith. Can
I hop on? Are you almost done? Are you in a complete place? No, go ahead.
Oh no, there is tons more.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So what I learned from one of my teachers, basically, and it's very traditionally believed this in a lot of places in India, which is that like there are certain things that are very set and written in our lifeline, or at least in this incarnation. And you can even go to a certain place in India and have that read by someone, basically based on your thumbprint and based on a few tidbits of information. They'd be like, okay, this is going to be the name of your kid, this is going to be your profession, this is the date you're going to die. Boom, boom, boom. And so from what I've learned is actually if we are, and again, we might have differing opinions on this, but if we are bound by karma, if we are bound by time, if we identify with this body and this story and this name, Nikki Ray Bose, there is little to no free will. Little to no, because you fully identify with the story, and this story is going to play itself out and learn the lessons it's meant to learn. And if you come into contact with someone who has transcended time, who has transcended their illusory identity, there might be some leeway in that experience because they aren't buying into this material realm or material reality that we've pretty much subscribed to, with a few exceptions. We've maybe had some moments during meditation or during high doses of hallucinogens or whatever that you're like, whoa, I'm everything all at once. And then in those moments, there's a little more freedom. But from what I understand, where we're playing this character in space and time, like, it's going to go down how it's supposed to go down for your process of awakening. And part of why I think, and who knows if that's true or not, like, right, we're down here, we don't have all the answers, but I think part of why that's such an important tidbit to hold on to is because if you can like firmly believe that with your heart, there's so much more surrender that can happen. But if you're in constant resistance, we're like, was this supposed to happen? Was this supposed to happen to me? Could it have gone this other way? I'm watching right now, my dad is in grieving. His partner recently passed away. And I'm just watching the back and forth in his head. Like, what if I had done this? What if I, and grief is already hard enough, but he's perpetuating and creating his suffering with this resistance, with this constant questioning of like, was that just? Was that right? How could life be so unfair? And so part of the yogic belief system or yogic path is saying, I trust in this process. And that can be super hard sometimes when we're witnessing our own evil or other people's evil or violence, you know? But that's my understanding of fate. It's like when you're bound by karma, you're bound by fate. And when you're free from karma, you're free from fate.
Question. So if we're kind of discussing the concept of having like free will, and I don't really know exactly what my question is, but the idea of that like we could be tested, that we have this free will and we're being tested, and then we have like it's up to us to make this choice based on being tested. Is that a concept that's commonly taught in like yoga scriptures or teachings, like that we're actually being tested, or is it presented in a different way other than being tested?
It's presented as prakriti. So, and you learn this in YTT, but the idea is that all of reality is created by two things, and this is according to the sutras, the Yoga Sutras by Patanjali. All of reality is created by two things, prakriti and purusha, and prakriti is nature, and purusha is consciousness. And prakriti being like the elements, how you could best understand it. But honestly, it's usually addressed as the trigunas, rajas, tamas, and sattva. But like, just think of it as the elements, nature. And the idea is your prakriti, your physical makeup. So if you're quick-tempered, if you're hyper, if you like all these little things, these like elements of nature in your body and your story and how they present in your external world, they're perfectly lined up. They're in this like little pie chart of like this much rajas, this much tamas, this much sattva for you. For your individual, like, Jiva Atman to awaken. And that's the idea, that, like, your outer reality is a reflection of your inner reality, and they're perfectly designed for you to wake up, to separate Prakriti from Purusha, from consciousness, and for you to rest as consciousness.
I have a question. What do we think is going on when, like, talking about fate and synchronicity, like, when things start to line up in your life and you're noticing and observing it, and maybe like then you take a hard right turn. It feels like the universe is like, this is where you're going, and then you just shift. What is happening?
Can you be more specific? Did it happen? How did it happen?
Synchronicity, right? You're talking like when you're like going this way and then something synchronistic happens, you're like, this is a sign, and then you turn. Like you're like, all right, I'm gonna switch gears.
I think it's more like when you're like living your life and you're moving through things, and like I was noticing lot of synchronicity and like a lot of parallels and a lot of connections that I felt like was moving me towards one thing, and then suddenly it felt like that what I thought was going to happen didn't happen, and I moved in a completely different direction, almost like it wasn't an active choice. It just felt like the path I thought I was on was not the actual path.
Yeah. What'd you learn in that?
I don't know yet.
No, what?
Did you learn He said there's no fate. Did you learn detachment from where you thought it was going? Like, have you like processed that on anyways? Like, oh, this point, this point, this. Oh.
Yeah, I think I'm like working through that.
Yeah. I understand. I was very passionate about the way I wanted to give birth. And I labored at home for 34 hours or something, and things took a really crazy direction the last 2 hours. And it was very difficult for me to process, because I was like, wait, all signs were pointing to me having this like beautiful home birth. You know, like, wait, what? I had to transfer to the hospital last minute. And I did a lot of why me. I did a lot of why me. I did a lot of why this. I did a lot of despair and sorrow and like, like the deep human experience of like, this is pain. Like, this is pain in the human experience. Like, I didn't want this. And this is what it feels like when you don't want something and you get it, you know? And I look back at that and the kind of depth that it carved out in me, and the kind of deep, like my emotions were so strong in those moments that like there was no way but to surrender to them. Like, I had to surrender to those emotions. I wasn't like, all right, I'll eat chocolate over this, or like, let's get wasted. Like, I was like, my baby is separated from me and I just gave birth to him. Like, I can't, this is serious pain. And I think sometimes when things don't turn out the way you think they're going to, it demands a level of presence and surrender that years of yoga practice teach you and require from you. So all in like a life moment, boom, you have this awakening that might have taken 100 hours of asana or breath work. So, I mean, that's the only thing that I could relate to.
Yeah. I agree with all what was said. I just it's a good opportunity to introduce the idea of the model of the world, which is pretty much based on Ram Dass. So he says that everything is God, right? We're all vibration. Everything is made of the same God energy, God consciousness, and it's just an illusion that this physical mind, physical personality is separate. So from that point, what is outside of this physical mind is also God, and this is like just God splitting into what's inside the body and what's outside of the body, and that outside goes all the way beyond physical. So something decides for us something. Is it subconscious or spirit guides or angels and spirit guides and some council of higher energies, higher beings, and bloodline. As I hear, the bloodline has a lot to say, a lot of impact on your life and death, like life-forming circumstances. So there is a lot of negotiation happening on the other side, but it's all us. It's all universal consciousness splitting itself into what's inside the body, what's outside the body. So why do they decide to make a sharp turn? Great question. And sometimes I think it's just some energy shift, and there are these shifts you can feel and see how they happen. Not only in us, it happened synchronously with our friends, like me and my remote partner in another club. We just casually mentioned something from outside of our job duties to our supervisors. And at the same time, at the same day that happened, and although both of us almost were fired at that moment. I mentioned my alternative science, and she mentioned her club singing activities. And that somehow made an explosion, and we were like almost fired. So that means that the energies all around which caused that shift. It's not only my console decided about me, it was her console decided about her. And so one of the tricks is to, when you pray, you ask someone above to give you a favor, right? Just bring them attention. And the prayer, the modern New Ager prayer is like, I invite your attention. I don't ask you to change anything, but if you just forgot about me, like I'm here suffering.
Hey.
But who is that there, right? Who is that there? It's also me, right? According to Ram Dass, it's another part of me. So now I'm my prayer is like, let's give Max some slack.
Can we lighten our load a little? I love that. Yeah, and I think the cool thing, Ram Dass is like crazy about Neem Karoli Baba. If you've listened to any Ram Dass, he's like, just the way he expresses his love for him is so beautiful. Yeah. And the traditional way of teaching yoga was through lineage. It was like teacher, student, and everyone had a guru who had achieved some level of enlightenment, and that's hard to find these days. But I think having that human form makes prayer a lot easier, makes unconditional love a lot easier, because there's like human form in front of you whose feet you can wash or kiss, or like an image you can bring. Like say you're meeting someone, you really dislike them, you like bring Neem Karoli Baba into them, like understanding that purity of your guru who's like loved all parts of you. And so I think that's why there was this original way of teaching yoga, because I think bhakti yoga, or having the guru or the teacher, or that entity that you love so deeply, makes it easier to pray, easier to believe in a higher harmony. And I think that can be why we feel so lost here in the West, because we don't have we have some. Ram Dass was an amazing Baba for all of us, but we don't have a lot of those sages to turn to. And it's, I think, why we end up accidentally or intentionally culturally appropriating a lot of the times, because we turn to these other cultures that have maintained their traditions and have maintained teacher-student lineage and say, please teach me, I'm so lost. My whole indigenous knowing was lost in the Crusades, however many hundreds of years ago, And so I think there's something to be said about that teacher-student role, and I think that's probably why you and I love Ram Dass so much. That's why, I guess I can speak for myself, that's why I love Ram Dass so much, because he was actually alive during my lifetime. And some part of me, I've never met him, but some part of me feels like I know him, and I love him. Like I hear his laughter and his funny little anecdotes, and I feel like love. Like I'm like, oh, I love him so much. And when you love someone, the teaching is so much more potent when you really love someone. Because like they say, Patanjali says that practice is both effort and devotion. So 100% effort and devotion. And devotion, I usually, as some of y'all know, teach it as unconditional love. So if you give your full effort to someone as they're teaching and you're listening, and you also have this element of love there when you're listening, you just like melt into their words. You receive their truth. You're just like, you get the truth bumps and the tears, and you're just like, this is the teaching. And I think we can awaken so much faster if there is that element of love there. The presence, the karma yoga, the like, I'm going to be with this action, I'm going to be with this act of listening, and the love, the bhakti. I think that like magical mix leads us to the jnana yoga, and jnana is known as knowledge, but it leads us to that self-realizing or self-knowledge of who we really are. And the funny thing about bhakti is that it requires two. Have y'all ever heard all yoga teachers say, we're all one, it's all one? Even Max was just saying that like, all of it is forms of divine, all of it is forms of God. Like you and I are just like, I'm just looking at myself right now. I'm just like lecturing to myself right now. Right. But bhakti requires two. There has to be some entity outside of you for you to be like, I love you, I give my all to you. And it's so interesting that we as humans have to, a lot of the times, really truly engage in this dance of duality in order to surrender to that natural process of collapse, back to oneness, back to the like one ooey gooey vat of consciousness. And I think there's a lot of like not looking at the two, not looking at the duality, not, you know, like looking at the good versus evil, that's duality, is the same thing as the teacher-student role. It's the splitting of one into two. And when we can fully acknowledge the two, fully love the two, that's when they collapse into the one. That's when that cycle starts all over again, like birth to death, right? Because what is death but all of us collapsing back into one?
I had a question written down, and I think what you were just saying just started answering it, but so I'll throw it out now. Earlier when you were talking, I heard kind of two different things. On one side, you were talking about karma and bhakti being, you know, in service and devotional and like loving the darkness, you know, in yourself and others. To me, I interpreted a lot like all of those things as kind of like selflessness. But then on the other side, we were talking about speaking the truth, you know, like the example with Ram Dass and the Prime Minister, and I heard that as honoring yourself. And to me, it presented almost this like dichotomy.
Contradiction.
There's so many contradictions in the teachings.
Right, and I think you were just starting to answer with what you're saying, but how do we interpret that and put that into practice?
Yeah. Oh, let me share. So I actually had a big, like I had a hard time with this in the beginning because one of my main pillars for when I opened the studio was authenticity. And I was like, I'm going to be myself. And then like I was more and more I was myself, I'm like, who am I? Actually, I'm like Nikki Bose. Oh wait, I'm playing a mask, like I'm playing a persona. But I think the issue a lot of the times is like there's something happening inside. Like I'm thinking, oh, I hate that girl. And then I'm like, hey. And then there's something happening outside and there's a dissonance between those two. And I think if there's a dissonance, there's more layers between who you think you are and who you actually are. So the more and more you tell the truth, of like, of course, with the intention of non-harm. You know, like you're not going to get on a microphone and be like, I hate you, you suck, whatever. But it's the less and less dissonance there is, like a differentiation between what's happening inside and what's coming out with your actions, your words, whatever. The closer and closer you are to like purity, you're like polishing the crystal of the mind. So then there is this spontaneous realization of like who you truly are. And I think when Ram Dass's guru was like, tell the truth, he's like, come on, stop adding more layers. Don't do the mind layer and then this layer and then just speak it. And then soon you're not going to be thinking that thing anymore because it's like, oh, last time I said that out loud, I had to sit alone for meals for like weeks because I ostracized myself from all my colleagues, you know? So I think, does that answer your question?
Yeah, perfect. Two topics, yeah? Truth. Nim Karoli Baba tell Ram Dass tell the truth, but himself he was a liar, outrageous liar, and he was a monkey, right? A joker, and Hanuman monkey, right? And he was tricking everybody all the time, and some dishonest people came to him and they thought they're tricking him, and he said, they're thinking, I'm tricking the whole world. And they're thinking they're tricking me because he had a superpower of reading minds. That was his main superpower. He would read anybody's minds anywhere. So I was thinking that just like last week, Shiva and Kali are known for bringing out the truth. They destroy the illusion and bring out the truth. And that makes sense, since the creation is all illusion. So, in fact, Brahma is creating the illusion and Shiva destroying the illusion. And I was thinking that I'm a Brahman scientist, but basically it's like a contradiction here. If you're a creator, you create illusion. If you want truth, you have to destroy, like dissolve it and see what's under that. What's under. So that's one contradiction, and that's just where I am. Am I like for Shiva or Brahma, or what's the difference, right? Second thing is, I forgot. What was your question?
She was talking about like the contradiction between truth.
Yeah. Yeah, truth.
And also selflessness.
Yeah,
How
exactly.
can you
Yeah,
have your own
thank-
truth and then also
Yeah.
be selfless?
Thank you for. I'm already spacing out.
I got
Anyway,
you. Earth Mama.
one thing in yoga that you teach like every day here, like be in your body, be your own size, and that's disconnects you from all your troubles. It's very psychotherapeutic, right? You forget about your troubles. You are here and now. Forget about all the past troubles, future troubles, relationships. You are your body, and that does miracles because if you are God consciousness trapped in the body and you spread yourself to paying attention to everything else, it's like point of attention spread. If you focus your attention on your body, then there is the brain capacity is available, but you're paying attention to something pretty narrow. Then what happens, you don't pronounce it, but basically what happens, that brain capacity is spent to connect to other dimensions, to transcendental dimensions, to beyond this, beyond physical. So that's what happens. Like if you stop moving, stop thinking, and the brain capacity is still there, it goes there, or anywhere, anywhere beyond there. That's one method, which is a super cool method. But another method is bhakti, which is making yourself so small that you adore everything. So you shrink yourself smaller than your body to like nothing, and you pray to or adore, love the divine, huge divine, something else. It's another working method that also works great for transcending things. And the next one is the other way around. I am everything, right? And I love that. That's my favorite. I'm you guys. I'm like in everybody's mind. And people notice like, why don't I keep my distance? Like I'm in any, like I'm pretty, I hate buses and public transportation because people, I'm in everybody's mind and people are there like, they're angry inside, angry and suffering, either angry or suffering or both, and suicidal too. So, so basically, that's another way of transcending, just becoming everybody, and that also helps with karma because when you unite with everyone, then you share karma, and that's what happens in yoga class, especially here. And Nikki loves to suffocate everybody here, like intentionally to close the air output, have everybody breathe. And I discovered, thanks to that through quantum entanglement connects the physicality and vibrations of everyone, and specifically vibrations of the DNA. Because when you breathe somebody else's air, you quantum entangle. So there is even stronger collective reunification. We become one vibration.
Reunification.
Yep. Oh, by the way, yeah. So did I answer everything? Yeah. So that is about the fate. You have a lot of fate as long as you are separate. As soon as you combine in a new way with the new people, that merges the karma and creates a new formula.
Neural, I wanted to get your question.
Yeah.
My question is around, like, you already mentioned the internal and the external world, and like a lot of my internal world is kind of like I've been with how I compensate for a developmental kind of disability, and I see how that's shaped my personality. I end up, like, my personality is based upon this primordial fundamental compensation that I've been doing for earlier than I can remember, and so my internal world of suffering is out there in the external world, and I know that's the awakening path, but if you can speak to how to make that bearable or doable, or if you can speak to that, I would really appreciate it.
Yeah. How to make external suffering bearable. Is that the end? That's
How do I take my internal suffering and keep it from defining my suffering, or be it projection of my suffering due to pain in my body, and the way that I didn't work around it. I'm in chronic pain. I am, and I mean, I don't want to identify with it, but it's
This is hurt. This is painful to be in my body. That's what you hear.
And I don't know what's mine or what's just me taking on what's out there. So thanks.
Do you want? I can start.
Okay.
All right. Or do you want to start?
I think I want to say something.
Good.
Okay. So I think the number one thing that I've learned from, I can't speak because I don't have chronic pain, but I've had a lot of soft tissue injuries. So I can only speak from my personal human experience, and ultimately you have your own. But what I've learned is that there's a big difference between pain and suffering. There's a big difference between pain and suffering, because I personally, I don't know about you, I love to work out. I love to surf big waves. I love things that create a lot of pain for me. Sometimes I have to hold my breath a long time underwater, and I love it. But then I have moments of pain that feel like suffering. And usually the suffering is there because the resistance factor is there. And I have felt for myself, there's usually like an element of two things happening: a resistance factor and a victimization factor. A why me? Why me? That person over there got to have, I'm just going to go back to my birth story because it's easy to come, that's like a more fresh thing to me. Why me? That person got to have a happy, natural home life. Like, why this happened to me? And so that mix of like, I don't want this, and the why me ends up creating the experience of suffering. So that's what I have identified in myself. And this practice is, I guess svadhyaya is usually how it's understood, which means self-study. You can consider svadhyaya like the study of text, but you can also consider like an analyzation of self svadhyaya. And so that svadhyaya, that self-study, realizing that those two factors are the consistent visitors in my suffering, sometimes, not all the time, but sometimes allow me to step back and say, here's where I'm saying, why me? And here's where the resistance factor is. Now, when I like acknowledge those two things, what helps me work with them? And I personally have found that helping others has taken me out, there's one of them, out of the why me headspace. So usually rather than me like, how do I fix this injury? How do I, I'm like, okay, how do I serve others? That's what's helped me, right? And then the resistance factor. The resistance factor is a matter of controlling the mind. Because the body, especially if you have chronic pain, is not something. It maybe, for now, isn't something you can control. So the resistance factor is a matter of controlling the mind. And for me, my process is sitting with that resistant thought and holding it like a little baby. Like that thought is like, I don't want this, I don't want this, I don't want this, this hurts, just like holding it in a way that feels like gentle and nurturing and loving. And my little resistant voice in there is angry. I don't know what yours is like. I don't know whose yours is correct. Mine's angry. And a lot of times that anger then just kind of like melts into sadness. And then it kind of melts into me just really releasing it, crying, throwing myself at the altar, whatever it is. So I guess I can really only speak to that question based on my human experience, and you can take it or leave it.
Yeah, that is a great topic of pain. And we should do like 2,000 hours of training for pain management, something like that. It's a huge topic. There's so many methods, and it's one of that is to discover a healer within you, like becoming a doctor, a healer, and lots of other approaches. You really have to look at the roots. And for me, the roots of my pain, I'm constantly being manipulated by pain. It's like mental pain and physical pain. Like all my life is like progressing and evolving to evade and avoid pain. And I have huge tolerance for pain and fear, but somehow I get back into that, like habitually into new pain and new fear. So one of this is to validate that it is actually one of the mechanisms of ego, to keep your attention in your body, to keep your soul, your God attention, focus of God's attention in your body. Because if there is no pain, you like just are elsewhere, doing some magic outside of the body, but pain brings you here. So that's for me. It's clear. Like I'm so getting involved in ideas that I'm really here, and pain kind of brings me here. So doing yoga and forcing myself in the body is substitutes that need for the pain. So when I do yoga and do breathing, that I do that consciously. So pain is not needed anymore to keep me in the body. So yoga is a good substitute. Another thing is understand that pain is only for ego, for you. So if there is no ego, if there is no you, there is no pain. So dissolving yourself to the level that you are not your body, not your physical mind. It's that body has pain. Yeah, when I'm like too high, I say, yeah, this body needs something, but I'm not the body and not even the physical mind. I'm something else, like some other consciousness driving that car. Yeah, that car needs fixing and that car needs gas, but not more than that. And there is tons more approaches, but one of them is understanding that pain is often a blockage. There is an energy flow which is healthy, and if there is a blockage, then there is accumulation of negative energy. And there is a lot of healing techniques that allow releasing that. And what I discovered like maybe a couple years ago is pressure points and working on looking for your body where you find some unusual pain, like painful spot, and then you kind of massage it to bring like pain there. And by massaging it, you sort of open the channel, and then the other pains disappear. So
She's
that's
a massage therapist.
Oh, she's? Okay, I'm just like, we are, look, if we just step away, there is a mirror here. And there is that you just can have my microphone and talk to yourself.
I love it. Yeah. Wow. But I also want to say one thing that just like came to me. I was listening to Max, and then also just like integrating, I don't know, just like feeling your human experience. Like, first, I just want to say I'm sorry that you have pain every day. That sucks. Just like human to human. And pain beckons us to heal, right? Like when I have an injury, I'm like, all right, quick. Get the ice. How do I do it? Make an appointment with acupuncture. Make an appointment with massage. And it's like everything, all of my energetic resources go to healing. And I think it's very similar, an exact parallel, to the some part of us, the hungry ghost in us, right? The part of us that's seeking. Like, I want truth. I want knowledge. I want to be happy. I want to be happy all the time. It's very similar. And that hungry ghost in us has us seeking modalities like yoga, has us coming to Dharma talks like this. And that very hungry, unsatisfied ghost is ultimately what leads us to self-realizing and dissipating that feeling of incompleteness. And I think in a similar way, pain guides us to healing. And a lot of time, the painful, both physical and emotional processes we experience pull us to what I believe to be as God. And it's a matter of believing that that's the trajectory.
Instagram shows me the quote that by Rumi, that pain is the door through which light comes through.
Like, birth for sure taught me that. Yeah. I mean, if you've watched anyone give natural birth, and you've watched your partner multiple times, yeah, it's like, I mean, the tri Godhead, Brahman, Vishnu, Shiva, right there. Like the primal screams and the body feeling like it's splitting in half. Like, and that is bringing this like new innocent life into like, what? It's like all of that. We can study the tri-Godhead, of course we can, but like, look at our existence. Look at what bringing a human life onto this planet is, and like all the emotions and pain and sorrow and like all of that in that one experience that is new life. Like, it's right there. All the teachings are right there. So yeah, study away, but like, it's right here.
I just want to add,
It's the knowing that it's not going to go away thing. That's the hard part. You know, they're not like 6 or 8 weeks for the ankle, or, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
They're like, oh, 10 years, 12, 15, like, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's like
It's not like, yeah.
the concept of permanence embedded in the pain. Yeah. That's a big one. And I feel I have a lot of difficulty speaking to it because it's not my human experience. I almost feel inadequate to speak to it. But, okay, do you know who Muji Baba is? Okay, he's a really amazing teacher. And I'll never forget, I watched one of his satsangs, which is like a lecture. He does these lectures, but like for many, many hours. I told Max, I was like, we're stopping at 2. But I'll never forget, a man came up and he said, I have depression. I've had depression for most of my adult life, and I don't feel like it's going anywhere. I've taken all the medication, I've seen all the therapists, it's just me every day, and I wake up with my depression. And for him, he's like, there's no end in sight. There's no, you know? And what Muji said to him was, so let it be there. So let your depression be there. Because like regardless of, and I'm quoting Muji because I don't want you to think I'm the one saying this because I'm just not in a position where I can say it. And I'm just like, I always say like turn to the sages when it's like these more intense topics. But he said, just stop resisting it. Stop saying like, this isn't a part of my experience. And then ultimately in that, you fall deeper, from his perspective, fall deeper into consciousness. And there's less involvement in that pain. There's less like, oh, this defines me. And it's like, oh, this is a part of my human existence, and I'm this. Like deep down under all this shit, like I'm this. And it's resting as this that ends up being liberating, not getting rid of pain. It's like resting as this is the true liberation.
Can I say something?
Yes, please.
So, one of the things that I think that I've read before in this particular situation is when it's like a chronic, who you are that is just not going anywhere, and it is, if you're in the present and the here and now and just knowing this is who you are right now, not being concerned about what transpired in the past or what might replicate itself in the future, then that sort of eliminates the pain, because this is just where you are right here in the here and now. And it's sort of like you dissipate the attachment to it in many ways. You know, you don't like, well, look at that person over there. They don't have what I'm dealing with, or, you know, or the dog I have is, you know, running around, barking, laughing, you know, but it's like, it's, in many ways, like that's the way to just accept the pain, is to not associate anything other than just where you are, right in the here and now. It eliminates the future concerns of the pain, which kind of eliminates the binding, the weight, the pain in some ways.
I think you're right. I think you have to take that time to own that. Because that's so
Mindfulness.
Daunting, yeah.
It's in the here and now, and if you just try it,
Yeah.
like in a meditational thing, acceptance of it, maybe.
Yeah.
For me, one of the desperation is a good excuse to go and seek miracles and miracle workers. So that's, you know, when I'm desperate, then I go look for saints around. One of the great ones was Amma. That's like a hugging Indian big woman. Like she's pretty big, and she's hugging hundreds, one after another. And then we sit there like 30 of us crying. And that was huge. And that kind of showed me that substance of, you can feel the substance of love and substance of that divine bliss. In Jai Bhakti also you can feel it, and here in this room too. It just comes, it's thick, and you can feel feel the healing power of it. Miracles happen, just miracles do happen. That's just asking around, like, do you know saints, healers, magical workers, and just great opportunity to meet with them and get a bliss from them. And another one is, for me, is huge, is like shape-shifting, transforming, changing your own formula, changing who you are, and that's pretty much, give me another chunk of energy, I'm ready to move on. And that happens to me like several times a day, and huge shifts happen like every couple months. So if you're not you anymore, then the pain changes. Like after many years of some pain, I'm a different person. Like experiment with color of your socks. Change like your socks inside out, and change the color of your clothes, change your color of your shoes, the path you walk, everything else, the food, everything. Yeah, if you're sick, change everything, including all your habits, all your principles. Turn them, just flip them around.
Experiment. Yeah, I mean, this isn't exactly related, but I used to work. I was a molecular biologist before I opened. Mm-hmm. Before I opened Reunify, that was like my career, and I was every single day. I would like wake up with debilitating anxiety. And I was teaching yoga at night, actually. And I would sit in the parking lot before I went to the job, and like my heart would be racing so fast. I'd be like, no. And my heart was like sending me on my dharmic path, but I was like, must make money. And I was just like so scared to change it all. But I knew my body was communicating to me that I had to. Like woke up every day with like chest, like panic attacks and stuff. And I was like, oh my God, like I have to change. So ultimately I just like left my job and I had nothing. I actually was married too. And I told my husband I need to go travel alone. And I went to go travel alone in Asia for like 5-6 months. And then I came back and started Reunify. And a lot of the chest density and panic attacks and a lot of that was gone because I made such a major shift in my life. And it was like crazy how many physical symptoms I had. Digestive, I was diagnosed with IBS. Like I was like having crazy deep colonic pain, and all of it was because I was not listening to my body. Like I was like, no, must make money, do the science thing. And ultimately when I listened to my body, I was like, yeah, I barely made any money. I taught donation-based classes for a long time, taught a few classes a week. But I listened to my body and everything started falling into place, and my body felt healthier and happier, and it was so wild. But it was scary as hell. It was so scary to change it all, especially in a society that doesn't want you to. Yeah. Any other questions?
Go ahead.
It's kind of, well, first I'll say one thing. Based on what you guys were just sharing, there's a quote that I really love that says, for something to change, something has to change. And I feel like that's like what you were just speaking to, of just like the power of change. Like if something's not working or not feeling good, you have to just like sit back and try to make my socks inside out.
All right, that's it. Yeah.
You know, like
tomorrow, no underwear.
Just getting comfortable with change, I think that's a good, if you can start wearing your socks inside out, it's like a baby step towards getting comfortable with change. So I think that's really beautiful.
Mm.
But my question was kind of going back to the good versus evil. And I also think about the balance of like love and hate. And something that I've been struggling with recently is like certain people that I find so difficult to be around, or like I see like somebody like lie about something, or I see like something terrible happen in the world. I'm just like, oh, I just like hate that. Like I hate that thing or that person. I feel like so much frustration. And then there's also like a desire to detach because it's not, I can't change it or control it. But I would love to hear your thoughts on that, like loving, like when we're talking about unconditional love, how do we also hold space for the things that we dislike?
Please. Ram Dass does such a good teaching on this, and I love him for it. He says, we have to feel our hearts break as humans to have a deeper capacity to love. Like, we have to feel our hearts break. And like, ultimately, hatred, I think, is a protected form of feeling our hearts break. We see someone else lie, expressing insecurities. It's a mirror for our insecurities. We see someone else harm or take some drastic, massive act of violence, and we feel like, I hate that person. But really, our heart is breaking for all the people it's harmed, and for the fact that, you know, if that person is harming in that way, they have been harmed, or their ancestors have been harmed, and that's why they feel that way. And it's like, ultimately, the hatred, the anger, all that is a hardened shell around heartbreak. And so if I really believe this, and I try lately, like, especially with everything happening with Israel-Palestine, like, not that we want to get into that, but like, I have found myself at night just crying, because it's really important that we just cry and we feel and we let ourselves go there, because I truly believe it carves out our, at least like de-layers our ability, our innate ability to love endlessly. And so I think it's the feeling of the heartbreak that is being beckoned in that.
Can you remind me the question? I already have the answer, but I need to relate it to the question.
It's like, she was saying basically all this anger or fear.
Yeah, mm-hmm,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, like I was guiding a community, channeling community. It's called Hucolo, Human Colony, Hucolo, Human Colony. And we were more into channeling aliens, and lots of people came who are very high, and instead of teaching how to get higher, I was teaching how to get lower. Basically, it's again Hanuman's trip, not to try to join God, but actually come here to humans and face them. So it's a Hanuman's trip. Karoli Baba, he would be with poor people, criminals, on the streets, anywhere, like with as low as possible. And so that's a trip, and you can play with it in many ways. One of them is you already been here, you already are connected with Ramdas, Hanuman, Karoli Baba lineage, yoga lineage, and then you bring it back to the ground. It's one of the trips. And the second trip is to realize that they are you. It's just a mirror. Just a mirror. If you are super pure, you will see just the other side. They just flipped. So that's fun, and that's what I'm playing with. Going back to mainstream, going back to like as far as people. Like as a scientist, the most disgusting part of the life is marketing for me. Marketing is like pure lies. Marketing and sales and advertising. And now it's my job. It's super interesting. That's what I do, like service, marketing and service, and creating that illusion and selling the illusion, which is just can you do it in an enlightened way? Okay, I'm spacing out, but it's a dance, and as a healer, my approach is see what's their next step, and kind of you step towards them and see what's there. You cannot give them all knowledge of everything, but you can give them a connection to your connection. You connect them, you plug them back to that universal consciousness through their channels. Everyone has their channels working. So by looking at the person, I read their shape, read their chakras, read their traumas, and I see what's the next step for them to reconnect to that energy. And colors help, like you read red color, root chakra, so you connect them through that. But you just kind of come as a connector, I guess. That's my trip, like reading, analyzing, and reconnecting, giving them keys for certain connections.
Yeah, that kind of reminds me of like holding a non-judgmental space. If it's more of like a personal interaction too, which is so hard and such a practice. But it's like, I think Ram Dass does like an amazing job of that. And that's why he ended up basically becoming a death doula, because he really allowed for people to have their dying process without projecting any fear onto them. And as healers, if you do in fact consider yourself a healer, which I think many of us are just innately, it's so important to be able to hold that non-judgmental container, and like you're just like a spaciousness for them to have their process. I don't know like the specific circumstances you're talking about, but a lot of times we project identities onto people too, because like they're always in this world of duality. There's always like electrons, protons, and neutrons, right? So if you're playing the positive force, maybe the other person in front of you has no choice but to play the negative force, you know? And there are these funny little human dances we're doing and projecting identities onto each other without realizing. So if we can get into that neutral space, the neutron space, we can then allow for people to just like really do their dance on their own.
One more trick method is perceive yourself as a pump of darkness. So you absorb as much darkness into yourself and then clear it up. Like in yoga, if you just intend to clear out that negativity from yourself. So a lot of self-purification is like huge part of my life is self-purification, like not being angry. Watch your language. Watch your thoughts.
Uh-oh, I'm in trouble.
Watch your interpretations. Stay in a connected way, right? Watch your food, watch your breathing, watch your fears, and just keep yourself pure, and then dive into darkness, and then that's a cool trip.
That's the fun fact is that's the first niyama, is saucha, which is cleanliness. So it's like the first moral discipline that is taught to all yogis, cleanliness. Cleanliness of the body, cleanliness of the food, cleanliness of the mind. So, yeah. And I know if y'all have to leave it too, you can... I know two of you told me you have to leave it too. Don't feel rude. You can totally...
Yeah, if you just all leave, we still can talk.
Yeah. I think we plan on ending at 2:30, so yeah, got another half hour or so, but I know somebody else said you have to leave early. So yeah, saucha is the first moral discipline. So that isn't something interesting to look at.
So within that, can I ask a question?
Yeah.
I feel like I'm really struggling of like, am I allowed to enjoy the pleasures of this human experience? And I think that I'm really just, because I want to be connected and I want to like follow this path, but then maybe I'm attaching too much to my purity, and it's very confusing because I don't know what the right way is.
Yeah, I mean, main thing to look at is like, is there raga and dvesa? Like, is there clinging or aversion in the enjoyment of pleasure? Like, that is the most important thing. When you're enjoying something, like when you're enjoying a piece of chocolate, are you saying, I don't want this to end? Or are you saying, oh my God, this is so bad for me? Like, really noticing those subtleties of aversion or clinging. And then when you see them showing up strong, it's time to set those things down for a little while. And doesn't mean you'll never pick it back up again, because you might be able to pick it up in a detached way. That's happened to me with a lot of different things in life. But like as a yogi, at least a traditional yogi, according to like, you know, the 8 limb path, those are invitations to set things down. That pleasure and pain pull.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, I still, personally, I don't know what I'm doing, but
Yeah.
What were you gonna ask?
Oh, I was just gonna tack on that. I'm very new to yogic philosophy, but one of my favorite philosophies is Epicureanism, and that's something that Epicurus, I think, touches on a lot. Is enjoy that pleasure, but the pleasure can be just simple, and once you start having more exuberance than the pleasure is really worth, then you're not buying into that purity, like that it's a simple, whatever, if that chocolate is what it is, it's a piece of chocolate, enjoy the chocolate, once you start adding what you were talking about onto it, then you you've gone beyond a piece of chocolate. You've gone beyond your enjoyment and your pleasure.
Yes. And Patanjali very specifically says in the sutras, he said, avoid the painful and enjoy the non-painful until it becomes painful. And he implies in that, he doesn't use the word pleasure, because he implies in it, it's like everything that's pleasurable is just non-painful. Like, let's be honest. And ultimately, he also implies in that sutra that it is going to become painful if there's an overindulgence in it, and if there's this dance of clinging and aversion. And so, like, literally, there were some of these philosophy concepts, I really wanted to, like, instill them in my day-to-day life. And I have to say, with new mom life, a lot of it's just, like, out the window, survival mode. But there were times in my life where I was very focused. I was like, I want to embody yogic philosophy. And so I would literally set reminders on my phone, or my friend used to, like, write things on her mirror with a erasable marker, so that this is why people have mantras, so that every moment you encounter pleasure or pain, you can ask yourself, is this painful and is this non-painful? It's non-painful? Okay, let me be present with it. And like just having those like yogic checks for yourself in every like human interaction. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. But it takes so much discipline. And you have to set reminders in your phone. You have to because the mind is very powerful. And it'll just pull you right back in.
So is there any yogic philosophy that says, like, it's our birthright to, like, be abundant and experience these earthly things? Or is that more so just other philosophy that's not backed by zero text?
Okay, well, let's go back to Ram Dass, because we were going to talk about Ram Dass. Ram Dass considers refers to all of this as the Divine Mother. So it's really cute. I don't know if any of y'all had listened to that lecture. I'm sure Max has on the Divine Mother. He'll be like, oh, when I'm like, see a sexy stranger on the street and like we lock eyes and we have a moment of like, ooh, I'm like, hey, Ma, hi, Divine Mother. And like if I have like a piece of dog shit that I step into, I'm like, hey, Ma, hey, Divine Mother. And so I think there is this allowance for play, for Leela, for lightheartedness. And it's just it's up to us to notice a subtle difference between attachment and a play with the illusion. And I think a lot of abundance and manifestation can be a play with the illusion.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a huge topic. We can also do like 200 hours course on that. For me, pleasure is has very big negative charge. I enjoy the idea of monk, like giving away everything and serving. So if people say that pleasure can be a purpose of life, for me it's just like no, it shouldn't be. But I'm fighting that. I'm sort of trying to fix that in my judgment. But essentially, like when I read people, some people have a lot of connection to the earth energy, and that is where pleasure is. And for them not to work through pleasure, not to have a big value on pleasure, big positive value on pleasure, I think would be not healthy. So it really depends on the astrological, energetic design of the person. So if you have strong earth energy, then don't fight it. It's just not healthy to fight it.
Prakriti.
Right. So it really depends, and you really cannot go wrong. I mean, whatever you do, once you're connected to the universal knowledge, you cannot go wrong. You can go this way, you can go this way. Ram Dass loved ice cream, right? And he was teaching one thing, and then at night he would enjoy ice cream and getting fat, and he hated that. So for him, that ice cream challenge was huge in his life. So second? Relatable, yeah. And his sexual life was not advertised, but was also very important for him, and that was also like a huge challenge for him. How can you be a saint and at the same time desire and actually have lots of partners, lots? One thing is you don't have to be all at the same time. You can oscillate back and forth, because like yoga teachers right here, they are so beautiful, so enlightened, and then I always wonder, how are they outside of yoga class? Are they
Psycho.
are they the same, or is it like are you always the same way, or you just come like fake it here? But essentially you oscillate between back and forth, and that's very healthy to be oscillating and allow yourself oscillating. Switching back to the idea of what happens here in the studio, I listened to a recent post by Nikki, and I thought, Nikki's voice sounds interesting here, Nikki, in the post. And then I realized, oh wait, she posted Ram Dass. So basically there is that vibration that Nikki channels. It's not only love, it's called channeling. It's where energy comes. And so Nikki channels Ram Dass. It's like very real. I as a teacher of channeling, and I work with channeling for many years now, mostly like teaching and also doing a little bit myself. And studying, I wrote books about channeling. So that's very clear. Nikki channels Ram Dass channels Nim Karoli Baba channels Hanuman channels Shiva, and so on. So Shay channels Nikki. When Shay teaches, listen, she speaks with Nikki's energy. Like not all the time, but there is like super just energy coming through. Same words, same everything. It's just a double, a duplicate, which the same energy just comes through a different body, and through many other teachers here. So that space is like the energy comes through very, very strongly, and that's just it.
First time. This is the first time I got that info. But I've actually had one other student before tell me, she's like, Baba Ram Dass was here with us tonight. I was like, oh, was he? Thanks for saying hello to him. Yeah, so I guess that circles back to that lineage of teacher-student. And I actually don't know a ton about channeling the way Max does, but in my yin training, I do teach a workshop called Speaking from the Void. And it's something that I never learned from anyone else. I stumbled upon just from teaching for many years. I used to teach very heady, structured philosophy, and then I started teaching yin, and there was a lot of spaciousness and emptiness, and I just started sometimes saying things where I was like, who said that? And I would even bring myself to tears and stuff because I'm like, I have no idea who said that. And it came through me, but I've never got into channeling or anything like that. But it really affirmed my belief in the fact that we all have a deep innate wisdom. And part of what turned me on to yoga in the first place is, are we allowed to talk about psychedelics on this?
Just not us, somebody.
Oh, somebody. Many people out there have had big awakenings through psychedelics and have had zero information about yoga philosophy or a lot of common teachings in traditional or indigenous practices. And those bits of wisdom will arise from eating certain plant medicines. And I think, set plant medicines aside, we all have that within us. And a lot of these practices, going deep into the body through asana, me suffocating y'all, apparently, doing crazy breath work, all of that can bring us closer to those knowings that are right here. And it can feel really good to just empty out and receive it from someone else, but to receive it from here, to have it come up within you, there's nothing like that. Because it's a glimpse of self-realization. It's a glimpse of oh, that's me? That infinite nature is me? That knowing is me? And in that moment, I think there's a dissolution of small self or some of our limited belief systems. And some of y'all would be like, I've never had that experience. Keep practicing yoga. I promise. Years and years of practice, this method has been done for thousands of years. It has made it all the way to the West, and we are so lucky for that. I'm so, so grateful. Thank you for all the teachers that come before us, because it has lasted this long, because it works. And yes, it has shape-shifted quite a bit, and a lot of people treat it as exercise here, and people are still having epic shavasanas at core power. Guarantee it. Because there's just no denying, the spiritual wealth that these different paths of yoga offer. Not just asana, karma yoga and bhakti yoga too, which if besides today's lecture, if you haven't looked into some of those paths, I really recommend you do. And the Bhagavad Gita, sometimes, depending on the version you read, can feel like a little, especially if you have any religious trauma, it can feel a little like, they're talking about like impurities and shit. But I think listening to Ram Dass's podcasts on the Bhagavad Gita will awaken you to the different paths of yoga and how you can walk them and which one serves you.
I wanted to back up a little bit.
Back up.
There was a mention of earth energy being connected to pleasure. I was wondering if you could speak to the other elements.
Which ones you like?
Air, fire,
Yeah, that's my
water.
favorite. Second?
Fire and water.
Fire and water.
Yeah, sure.
You.
What would you want to know? I work with everything except Earth is my least convenient, but I work on that too. I work with Earth through food, but fire is super cool. That's I discovered. I burn fire, natural fire, every day several times, and just by charging from natural energy of fire is itself. I'm going to the sun and just absorbing light from the sun. In life, fire energy is we burn food inside, like air. When you breathe in yoga, you work with fire energy because air combines with food and gives us energy. So it's huge. Air is sharp. Like in tarot cards, air is also mental, and also the symbol is a sword. So air is sharp mind, right? So that's Jnana Yoga, my favorite. That's what I work with. I question everything. I'm like, for me, being honest to myself is super huge. Like, I really want to say things to myself in a way that are like absolutely clear. I don't lie to myself. Water is very therapeutic, healing, moon energy, and also illusion energy. And it's also creative energy, right? So you create through water energy. And right now I work with the dance. Angelic water energy dance, fire water energy dance. That non-stop movement, which is not linear and not even circular, it's complex curves, allows you to work. Like if you go faster, it's air, and you push air, like work with air energy. Try to move clouds, dance with moving clouds, moving leaves on the floor, like create wind. Like if you just search YouTube for people who do the dance. It's called Air Tribe, Air Movers, Airbenders. Yeah, Airbender. Yeah, that Legend of Korra and Avatar cartoons are super cool. They are just watch them. They tell you everything. That's like absolutely perfect reflection of these energies. And in modern dance, you can see the earth element kind of coming strong, like modern dance, which is not my favorite. It's just, to me, it's like too low vibration, but it's there, like robotics come in, like it's feeling of the robotics come in, and it's like earth element plus mental, earth and air robotics. Okay. Let me turn like random thoughts closer to the end. One was that working with the pain, especially Nikki is cool, and few other yogis, super cool, beautiful yogis. They enjoy pain. They attract pain on themselves, and that's very therapeutic for yourself, self-healing. Instead of being randomly controllable pain from outside, you take on yourself pain, and that gives you the dose of pain you got to get anyway, have to get anyway. So you choose when and where you take it, and that heals you, and then you don't get it unexpectedly in unwanted places.
Iyengar talks about that. Mm-hmm. Iyengar talks about tapas. Yogic tapas, or willpower, is the chosen karma rather than inflicted karma. So, like, you choose to put yourself through austerities so that life doesn't. You do it before life does.
And these are usually Shiva worshippers, Shiva tribe. Are you?
I don't know.
Consciously? No? No?
No, not consciously.
Okay. I just recognize you guys.
I've never put myself into one or the other.
How about Kali?
I've worked with Kali.
Yeah.
She has been pretty brutal with me. Durga is a Murti I have in my bedroom now. So Durga's been a little softer for me.
Yeah, another random thought which is also plugged in is that first, like, people blame ego. Ego is super cool. Ego is allowing universal consciousness to stay in your body and have an earth experience. So respect ego. Ego is a mechanism for staying in the body. Pain is a mechanism to keeping that attention to the body. And I am following Ram Dass and following his understanding. I just realized that this ego is also an illusion, and me is an illusion. And I just noticed that it's not me making choices. It's I have an experience of making choices, but certain decisions come from outside. It's like no way in any state I would make choices that I make. So something comes and does something through me which is not me for sure. For example, no, that's just another example related. Like we had a circle like that, and somebody said, I didn't plan to come here, my car drove me here. And that happens very frequently. Like, so for me, it happens like my illusion of me being a whole mental construct, physical mind. I think it's pretty consistent illusion, but it's made out of multiple personalities, and they plug in when they want, and it's all hidden from my consciousness. But I think we've been tricked into thinking that we are like one mind.
Shots. Yeah.
Yeah, like there is something manipulating right inside us, like that subconscious, superconscious, some other things. They plant ideas, plant desires into us. So I don't feel responsible anymore.
That's nice. Pass that over my way. Wow.
Do you think us as a whole humanity has fate, like a one fate?
Yay! You want it? So this illusion of life is maximized for drama. That's for sure. Like
We love the drama.
If you don't have drama today, it will happen tonight or tomorrow. Like drama is like if you just look back how it happened, you can clearly see that people who write the plot for this, script writers, like television series script writers, the only desire they had, the only goal they had to maximize drama. Like if you see how they plotted it, it doesn't make any sense except they wanted as much experience for us, as much drama for us. And they teach us lots of things about miracles also, like they're like huge. Like it all is going to end bad and then a miracle happens. So same with humanity. Like there is obviously AI coming, and it's coming very soon, and I love it, but it's gonna flip things all the way around. Like we are not the smartest anymore here, for sure. Not the cutest, not the most sexual, and we are not most anything except maybe diverse, pretty diverse, and exceptionally confused. But other than that, there is nothing to be especially proud of. Very diverse, very confused. So we are facing self-destruction, obviously. Ram Dass talks about that a little bit. No, Ram Dass doesn't. Terence McKenna talks about that a lot. Yeah. Ram Dass is...
He tends to keep it light.
By the way, like I listen to a lot of Ram Dass, and he avoids lots of topics. Not that he doesn't know them. Clearly, he was in the same audience, drinking with Alan Watts, with having... his main mentor, Tim Leary, was big about self-destruction of humanity and new technologies. Ram Dass intentionally filters out, and he brings a very clear message of love, bhakti, and everything being God, everybody being God. So that's a very clear message. So he filters out. At the same time, he is a researcher who you can see how he researches the topic and he discovers more and more truth about the nature of reality.
I think that that's personally part of why I love Ram Dass, and you all know I'm not like a big love and light teacher. In fact, if you do a lot of my trainings, I'm like down, like let's get into the shadow work, I'm about it. But something that I think makes a really powerful teacher is even if you know all of the truth, delivering the truth that will awaken people. And like different audiences, different sets of people need different knowledge to awaken. So even if you have that whole expanded version of knowledge, it's not about sharing everything that you know. It's about sharing what will help them to understand who they really are. And that's personally, when it comes to spiritual teachings, that's what I think is most effective, because a lot of these spiritual teachers, like at least Neem Karoli Baba, like they have knowledge in seed form. They have information about past, present, and future. A lot of them were omniscient. They have an understanding beyond our mental capacity. But if they were to put all of that on us, we would feel afraid. It's just the same way with the story with Baby Krishna, where he was like, Baby Krishna was out eating the dirt. And he goes back to his mom, and the mom's like, show me your mouth, get that out of your mouth. And the Baby Krishna opens his mouth, and his mom can see all of existence in his mouth, all death, all destruction, all birth, every being, and she just faints immediately because she doesn't have the capacity to process that information. And I think sometimes when I listen to some teachers who are so profound, you know, like Alan Watts, he's so, like his mind is just, wow, he will take you on a journey. But sometimes I leave his talks feeling really dark. I'm like, oh, and sad. And like, what kind of like, sometimes I move away from those talks feeling, rather, some of them are very inspiring, but instead doomful. I'm like, how is that going to serve? How is that going to serve? And personally, that's why I have such a deep love for Ram Dass, because every topic he chooses to speak on, and he does talk about heartbreak and some deeper they're all deep topics, some more intense topics, I end up, by the end of it, being like, wow. Heart expansive, you know? So, but everyone has a different teaching style and has a different teacher affinity.
So answering about the yes. Answering about the question of the future of humanity. So these are lessons needed for awakening, and we can see how awakening is actually happening, especially everywhere, but especially here in California, you can see awakening among people. But darkness is very real, and self-destruction is very real, and I don't think the whole matrix is destruction is real in this illusionary matrix. Destruction is real, matrix is illusionary. So, for the experience to be dramatic, we need that. Real opportunity to die for us personally and to die for the whole civilization. So these are not fake deaths. These are like real dangers of AI, a real danger of genetic modification. That's what I'm working on against that. Basically what happens, humanity is going to genetically modify itself to the level of damaging the collective biofield, collective chi energy or prana energy, collective, that ethereal blueprint of humanity becomes damaged because of too much genetic modification. So for that we need to decipher the vibrational code of the genome and become literate and understand how not to damage our vibrational body. Etheric body, aura, how collective aura has to be preserved. So that's kind of next 50 years, but that's pretty close. So these are real dangers, but gods and other creators are driving that matrix and that Earth reality in such a way that some timelines will actually get to self-destroy, but other timelines will continue. So the trick for you is to be high enough, positive enough to, at some point, change the track and remain on the positive timeline. And that's art, to actually stay positive, and then you float to the positive outcome. There is like the law of attraction is very real. So if you are in the right state of mind, everything around is very scary, but you carry the light and carry the light and shine, and you end up on the timeline where this drama kind of dissolves, and you keep moving forward.
That implies some sort of ability to control. You believe like there's an ability to control this human existence or this reality, right?
Oh, yeah. Yes and no. That's like, okay, so you don't set it as a goal, but you set it as a pleasant tool to play.
It's interesting to me because it can be very difficult for me, or like in the last 3 minutes of lecture, I'm like, all right, I disagree with this. But I have a hard time relating to doomsday conversations or discussions or conspiracies, because for me, like, so you say, okay, you have to get high and then you overcome this. And for me to hear that, the action would then be rooted in fear. Because like, I don't want to end up on that track. I got to end up on this one, got to get high. But I think rather than looking at any kind of doomsday future, if you choose presence, ultimately you will get high. Like, you will get on that higher track. Presence leads you to that. So rather than letting your mind go to all this doomsday material, saying like, what's here, coming back to this, and ultimately that act of presence brings you into that higher track. So what you would want would get you there in the first place. Rather than the action being rooted in fear, it would be rooted in presence.
And that too.
Is there time for questions?
Yeah, let's take this one, last one.
Pressure.
No, it's not good.
It's also not a fully formed question, but
Perfect.
I have been inspired by people like sharing their personal struggles, so I was going to try to do the same because it's related to this. I've been told that when it comes to relationships, I tend to seek out situations, like unconsciously seek out relationships where I can help or save people, right? Like try to be a savior. And I try to tell myself, or I like to think that that's practicing karma, right? Karma yoga. I'm trying to be in service to others and support. But where that becomes problematic is when, you attach your identity to the ability to save. And I think that's kind of been my situation, just to get super personal. I'm married to an alcoholic, and I think I've been, trying for a long time to be that savior, and I think I'm coming to this realization that I can't do that, right? Sorry, pregnancy hormones.
No.
Anyways.
Nice. Oh, no, Hannah.
Sorry.
No, please.
I'll keep going. So my question really is, gosh. Okay.
You don't have to be.
This is earlier when I brought up the topic of selflessness versus honoring myself, and I'm trying to figure out how much of this is truly karma yoga, of being in service to others, versus that ability or that idea you were just talking about of control. Controlling what should be, projecting what should be, and where do you, in that whole, this is why it's not a fully formed question, but in that whole complex dynamic, how do you find the right balance between this concept of karma, yoga practice, and the drawing boundaries for preserving self-well-being? I'm not asking you to solve my marriage. I'm just more of a general question about that, finding the balance.
I get asked this question in every single YTT, yoga teacher training, every year. The question between, the difference between like where do boundaries lie in a path of selfless service? And if you're being harmed, that harm is like inviting you to setting boundaries. Because like if you're being of service and you feel just pure love, you see yourself in them and there's just like just love all around, it's a very different experience if you're being of service and there is pain, resentment, damage happening. Like those vibrations and emotions and circumstances are inviting you to set boundaries, because we can't skip a step. Like, yes, there's this end all of we're all one and you're God and I'm God, but we can't skip the step of like, I'm a human and I'm not self-realized yet. Like, I'm a human and I'm about to bring another life into this world and I want that life to be safe and I want to feel safe, you know? And it's like, there's just no skipping the human experience thing. It's through the human experience thing that we remember who we are. It's through feeling pain and setting boundaries that we become boundless. So I think when you feel a call to set boundaries, you set boundaries. And when you feel a call to boundlessness, it's like Ram Dass always says, you can't force a snake to shed its skin. So you don't say like, I don't feel this, I'm liberated, I'm serving everyone. It's like, no, I feel this and I need to take action. It is propelling me to take action, to self-preserve.
Yeah, when the baby is born, as you well know, it's like life or death crisis for several months. Then you really have to be in charge and control of the material world. You have to like really time it well. You have to stay in good physical shape, keep the baby in good physical shape. So you have to be like really, the timing is very important. Like milk should be there, food should be there, blah, 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 blah. Air, temperature control, all of that is super important. And it's like you become really, really physically responsible. So sense of boundaries, the self-control should be absolutely like in good shape. At the same time, there is energy of the baby, like the angels of the baby, the bloodline, everything else are taking care of a lot of things. So help is coming, and it's coming in very unexpected ways. So if relatives drive around, if some relative uncle of your husband is sending money or something like that, pay attention. There is help. Miracles happen in unexpected ways. I drank in the past, so I can relate to drinking. Drinking also is a spiritual practice, and not a very good one, but from very bottom to the middle level, it lifts you up. And he's as scared as you are, most likely. So part of his relation to the situation is from fear and trying to be in control as well. So there is that play, and I think you will very likely you will go through, and it just like in Russia we drive cars where the car is dying, and the energy of the taxi driver is the same as the energy of the car, and without that taxi driver the car wouldn't run. So it's almost dying, but still you can sort of kind of on slippery road with wheels falling out and doors open, you still drive. So that's and that happens there like for years. So that is pretty much the situation, and just by pure luck and willpower you'll wiggle through. I think there is that energy of the baby which drives it through. But that's a super experience, and I think it's all designed, like your angels like wrote the script in a special way, so you experience that.
Thanks for sharing.
I'm glad to hear that everybody brings in why makes me feel more.
Okay, that closes our time all together. Does anyone have a last share that they want to offer up? Okay, let's close with a few deep breaths all together, huh? Find a nice long spine. Take any wiggles you need to. And I just want you to notice like the energetics of your body right now, like what areas feel dense or like what areas feel fluttery or open. I often feel that we're very gifted to experience emotion, because I think it's through emotion that a lot of connection happens. And I think connection reminds us, obviously, of interconnectedness, which is really the whole point of Dharma talks. So just be with what your body's feeling for a moment. And just kind of say to yourself, okay, this. And I think it's very appropriate that we close with an Om altogether. A lot of you know this, but Om is a yogic technology, and it's said to be that it was the first sound that was created when nothingness became everythingness. So it kind of reminds us of that little bridge between destruction and creation, that little bridge between oneness and duality. Inhale to Om. You just bow your head for a moment in reverence to your life, your life story, and all the teachings that has held. Thank you, everyone. Thanks so much for coming to our Dharma talk. Yeah, that was so potent, and like the fact that y'all came with questions.
Yep. Thanks for dialogue.
Yeah. We'll hang out for a few minutes. Is there more chai?
I think so.
Do you want to get a refill on the way out? Do your thing. And if you feel like a lot of energy, that was a lot of exchange of information and emotions. Do what you need to do for self-care today. Drink water. I like to brush my body off sometimes. Move your body. Hop in the ocean. That's my favorite. It's cold, but it feels good. Take care of yourself. Thanks, Matt. Thank you, Max.
Hey.
Everyone's like, and we sit now in meditation.